Hey there guys, how's it going? This is another episode of Mum and Son.
Hi.
My name is Jay.
I'm Alicia.
And I'm the son, she's the mum, if you didn't know before. So we just talk about stuff in life in general, whether it's positivity, inspiration, motivation, just things that we just talk about in general.
Always.
Between ourselves and the rest of our family and friends. So we thought we'd do a channel and share our whatever wisdom or...
our thoughts and our wisdom, share it with others, see if we can help other people with what we have to say about life, about all the things that
life and everything. Yeah. So this video today is gonna be about forgiveness, and I know there's two sides to it, or we know there's forgiving other people and forgiving yourself, but we're gonna focus on forgiving yourself. So self-forgiveness, and we mentioned it on one of our previous videos to do with regret. You guys can check that out if you haven't seen it already, where we said we'll talk about forgiveness in another video. So here it is, self-forgiveness. So, I mean, like when I think about self-forgiveness myself, it's almost like, once again, maybe decisions or choices you've made, or if you feel you failed at something and you're kind of holding yourself against that in a very negative way, and you're not forgiving yourself and allowing yourself to, well, later on we'll talk about it, but kind of love yourself and appreciate yourself more. But for you, when it comes to self-forgiveness or forgiving yourself in general, what are some of the things that come up to mind about that topic?
I think self-forgiveness is one of the hardest things that you can do, because I think in life we go through life always just thinking about forgiveness in terms of forgiving others, but there are certain things that we get really stuck on, and what we don't realize is that they are the reason we're stuck is that we have never kind of delved deeper within and looked at ourselves from a certain perspective and said to ourselves, you know what, for things to change or for things to kind of move forward, the only person I kind of need to forgive is myself. Because we hold ourselves back without realizing it. We hold ourselves to account. You know, in the other video, we spoke a little bit about judging ourselves, judging ourselves too harshly. And sometimes that's what we do. We are our greatest kind of judgment on ourselves. And that judgment can be very harsh. Sometimes you have to kind of say, you know what, after all, the best thing I can do, or the best way to kind of start moving forward, is to forgive myself. And obviously everyone's got different situations and circumstances that they will need to come from that place of forgiveness. But ultimately, it is one of the greatest forms of forgiveness that you can do. This is like over and above forgiving other people.
Well, that's it. How can you forgive others when you maybe
can't even forgive yourself
first?
And this whole thing of forgiveness, it can stem all the way from childhood, all the way up to, you know, to older age, adulthood, because you can at times be holding yourself to account about certain things or in relation to certain people. And the truth is, the only thing holding you back is yourself, because you haven't forgiven yourself. And that is one of the hardest forms of forgiveness. I really do see it that way.
And as you said, I think it's one of the hardest forms. And as you said, for some people, it's, I mean, you guys, some of you may recognize it or not. Maybe it's something from childhood, that there's been something that happened back then, or you did something back then and you've blamed yourself for it up until now, and you haven't forgiven yourself. It could be something in your more adult years that's happened, and you haven't forgiven yourself as like well. And I feel the thing with this is, as you said, it's almost like it's so hard to sort of try to give yourself a hand or pick yourself back up, because if you haven't forgiven yourself, it's almost like you're constantly kicking yourself back down. And not only that, whilst you're down, it's almost like you're holding yourself down and pinning yourself down. And I think with self-forgiveness is also looking at, you have to look at it and feel that you deserve to be happy. You deserve to love yourself. You deserve to be free from whatever guilt or blame or shame that you may feel.
And you've put on yourself.
That's been a previous experience that you've put on yourself and that you continue to judge yourself with.
And this is this whole thing about judging yourself, because like forgiving yourself requires a lot of self-reflection.
Yeah.
You know, as I said, you can say, oh, so-and-so did this to me, you know, I can decide whether I forgive him or not. And that's maybe an easier form of forgiveness.
Yeah, because it's not you, it's not outside of you. So
so you can see it, you can get people's opinion. You can say to people, you know, so-and-so did this to me, and you know, should I forgive them or should I hold it? You know, which we often do.
True, that's true.
Stuff like that. But for self-forgiveness, you're not going to go up to someone and say, hey, do you think I should forgive myself?
Yeah.
You know, a wise person may ultimately come and say to you, you need to forgive yourself. But it often requires self-reflection, you know, to reflect within your heart, within your soul, within your mind.
Yes.
What is it that I really need to think about forgiving myself? It's something, it's like self-love. It's something that you just neglect to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you feel it's not necessary.
Yeah, you feel it's not necessary. And sometimes people may feel, I don't deserve this. I'm not worthy of that.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's almost like on a certain level, it's like, well, I deserve to go through this or feel punished or something like that. Even if you don't want it, it's crazy how it can turn from like, it should be more of a self-love thing, but it can turn to a self-hatred.
Exactly.
And not giving yourself no reason.
There are so many people that even, I wouldn't say they necessarily recognize it.
That's the thing as well, you may not.
Because you may not be recognizing it. There are certain people that, you know, have grown to hate themselves, let alone other people. They actually hate themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can kind of put that kind of thought process on yourself. We talked about it holding people back, but you can also put that thought processes in that you are unforgiving toward yourself. You cannot forgive yourself for either past deeds or things you've done, or even if someone does something to you, there are people who blame themselves for other people's actions because you have such a low self-esteem, or you've come from a place of you know, unworthiness, that you think to yourself, wow, this person did this to me, it must be my fault.
Yeah.
That's common.
That is
Other
true.
people's actions and other people's deeds, for or against, you look at yourself and say to yourself, hey, you know what? Maybe if I hadn't done this, they wouldn't have done that. Or if I hadn't acted in this way, they may not have done this to me or reacted in this way to me. So that's a form of self-blame.
Yeah.
And all these self-related aspects to your nature, you have at some point to reflect on it and say, hey, I'm not to blame. Necessarily, I'm not to blame, and I need to forgive myself for that. You know, there are issues that people have had with their parents, with their siblings, with, you know, other people, that it's carried on and on and on, only because they feel a form of blame and they haven't forgiven themselves.
That's it.
But it's hard to do that.
That's hard. Yeah.
It's hard.
It's, as you said, it's almost like giving yourself the permission to...
That's right.
Forgive yourself. You know, the same way you mentioned it a bit earlier, the same way that someone may do something to you, and you may get to a point of stage where you go, do you know what? I'm just going to forgive this person. That's like you giving yourself permission to forgive someone else. But when it comes to ourselves or yourself,
yes,
it's sometimes a bit harder, but you have to give yourself permission at some point. Otherwise, you're going to be your worst judge, and you are going to...
Worst judge and jury, and and this is going to carry on. This will never end
it will never end
you make that decision.
And that's it as well. I think sometimes...
You're going to carry it on, and as I said, people carry it on from childhood all the way to adulthood, and it will never end until you actually sit down and you reflect on it, and you really take a good hard look at yourself, but not in a judgmental way. This is similar to what we were talking about regret. You know, stop judging yourself. We are only human, and that's it. We are going through a process in life where we're learning, where we're trying to understand
figuring out
our journey along our path. But at the same time, there's enough people out there hating on you or judging you, let alone yourself. So stop judging yourself to the point where you can't even forgive yourself.
That's so true. That's exactly it. And you'll find, I think, because we usually sometimes go, oh, you know what, if there's a summary or a tip, this and that. And I think, you know, a great place to sort of start is by thinking to yourself, like something of the effect of, even though, and you could fill the rest out with, I might have messed up here, or I did this, or whatever it is, you know, even though I did whatever, I choose to forgive and love and accept myself. Now, the first time you do that or you try it, it may sound cheesy, or it may sound, oh, this isn't going to work, this and that. But believe me, if you do it and that comes up, that's the resistance of the self-hatred and the not forgiving that's trying to counteract that.
Yeah.
But the more you do it, the more you find a neutral place. And I believe that in time, if you really, you know, work on it, it will turn to, wow, I do forgive myself now. I do give myself, because it's all about giving yourself the permission.
Yeah.
It's not saying that nothing didn't happen in that. Even though it did, I give myself the permission to start to forgive myself, accept myself, and move on. Some of
what we spoke of in the previous video, you know, is kind of merging into this, in the sense that you have to acknowledge, accept whatever it is.
True.
As well.
Yeah.
You know, which came up with regret. And at the same time, just say, I am going to forgive myself. It doesn't matter, because what I would touch on also is that, you know, the mind will kind of keep you in that stuck place of it was wrong, you should have, you know, you're to blame, that kind of back chat that we often have to contend with the mind.
And just as Alicia said, you know, that can come way back from your childhood, and that's been ingrained in you, or is something based on a traumatic thing that's happened, and you've held yourself to ransom for it. You start to believe that. So when that happens and your mind says that, no, it can be changed. It doesn't have to be like that.
Absolutely.
For ever.
You have to start to tune out that negativity, those thoughts, those recurring thought patterns and thought processes that are holding you in a state of, or an unforgiving state of yourself. And those thought patterns, you have to start tuning them out. And obviously the best way to tune them out is to turn them into positives, isn't it? To turn them into kind of a more positive outlook. Yes, accept what went wrong. Accept that you can't live from that standpoint anymore.
Yeah.
It's eating you up.
Well, that's why you want to do something about it.
Yeah.
Because if you were happy with it, then you probably would be living a life of happiness and everything.
Yes.
But we're guessing that you're hearing this video and that because you said, you know what, something just doesn't feel right, and I know something's going on. And is it just me? Am I born like this and that? But hopefully after watching this, you're realizing actually, not only does it happen to everyone, but also it's something that you can change. It's something you have the power to change. But it's going to take wanting to do that and also putting in a bit of the effort as well. As you said, turning the negative you're used to and built up to a more
something
positive,
from a more positive place. And I like the way you spoke about empower, because literally you, as I always often say, you are the creator, maker of your destiny. So at the end of the day, you have to make that decision and say, you know what, I just need to forgive myself. And you know, once you've done that, you're in a different place. You've literally transported yourself on an energy level to a different place, because you've said, hey, I've forgiven myself. You're free. That's it. And it's always, as you said, it's always coming back to that. You know, when you do it at first, as I said, your mind and whatever you've been used to and built up will counteract that and try to squish that down and kick it out. But the more you do it, the more you counteract whatever's going on, the more your belief system will change, the more your vibe and how you feel and your energy and the way you start to look at life will start to change. But most importantly, how you look at yourself. Oh, that is key. That is key. I mean, at the end of the day, 90% of the people walking this earth really have a negative outlook. Well, yeah. You know, not just about how they perceive the world, but often about themselves. Yeah. It's really key. Well, exactly. So when you add, you know, a dash of, I can't forgive myself on top of that, it's like doom and gloom. Yeah, it is. You're dooming yourself to misery. Yeah. You know, and it doesn't matter what aspects of the past you are reflecting on, but literally self-forgiveness is going to catapult you forward to a new life, a new outlook on life. It's easy to, when I say it's hard, when I referred to it previously as being a hard thing to do, that is the self-reflection part of it. Sure. Because, looking inward. Yeah, because some people, you know, you may find it hard to spend time with yourself because you feel like, well, I'm blaming myself, or I'm too busy. But, you know, you have to start to do that because you can't avoid yourself. No way. You can't. No way. But ultimately, you can get to know yourself and you can sort of, I don't want to say change as in, oh, there's something wrong with you and you need change, but I think just become your best self, which is there, rather than the person you're limiting yourself to being because of what you haven't forgiven yourself or holding yourself back on. Absolutely. Isn't it? Yeah, yeah. You know, but if you can take a bit of time out to have that self-reflection, you know, as we said, not in a judgmental way, but in a way of, you know, this is what I need to do for myself. This is what I need to do to take myself forward. And if you can literally start to say, I absolutely forgive myself. And the more you say, I forgive myself, the burden just gets lifted. You start to feel free. You start to feel more positive about yourself. And you know what the amazing thing is? Once you do that, other things in your life will start to change. You know, situations and circumstances and relationships that have held you back will start to change. Because you're changing from an inner place, from a soulful place. You know, and that change is gonna affect every aspect of your life, because the reason you're in certain situations is because you haven't forgiven yourself for the past, even something that's happened in the present. But once you forgive yourself, that forgiveness, although it's something you did yourself, it's kind of it kind of flows outward.
It's like a ripple effect.
It's a ripple effect.
If you drop a stone in the center of whatever bits of water you have, it's going to ripple out to the edges of the same water.
That's right. That's lovely. I like that. That ripple effect will affect others.
Definitely.
You'll find that maybe if it was to do with the relationship you had with your mom or your father or your siblings, or even, someone else that you had, that you loved or whatever, those self-forgiving steps that you've taken in your own time, in your own space, when you start to interact with those people, or you start to interact with those that made you get into this situation in the first place, you'll feel, hey, it's not as bad as I thought, I've forgiven myself, and even it's almost as if they kind of forgive me anyway, or I don't know how to explain it. It's just like energy, isn't it? It's like that. If that's how you feel on the inside, it gets reflected outwardly.
Yeah, it is. And do you know what? Just quickly, because I'm sure like you guys are enjoying this, and we are. But just to quickly add on whatever you said there, if you're not forgiving yourself because of something you did to someone else, you're thinking, well, I need them to forgive me before I can forgive myself. Once you really start to work on yourself and forgive yourself, whether they forgive you or they don't,
it makes no difference.
It will make no difference.
Yeah.
And that's not because you don't care about them or anything like that, or you're trying to avoid that or something. It's because it's unconditional. It's not based on the condition that they have to give you the permission first. You give yourself
I really like that
permission, because at the end of the day, the truth is, guys, you have the power in your hands in this moment. So whether you choose to use it against yourself and carry doing what you're doing is up to you. Whether you choose to find, you may think you don't have it, but if you work on yourself and dig a bit deeper, you'll start to find there's something here. And once you use that and you give yourself the permission, you're gonna be fine.
Everything's going to change. Everything's going to change, literally. And this isn't something that's going to take you years and months. It's going to be an overnight thing if you truly mean it. And you truly do forgive yourself.
Because a decision can be made like that. It's once you make it, consistently doing what you need to do to sort of pave that way. And you've been used to a totally different way the whole time. So like, you could do it for a few days or weeks and fall back a bit. That's okay. As long as you have the intention of really sort of moving on from this, then you're going to be fine. Remember, it's a journey. It's always a journey.
And, trust in yourself, believe in yourself, know that everything in life is part of a transition.
It's part of the transition.
Not any one person is perfect. It's our imperfection that makes us become who we are going to be.
Exactly.
And, forgiving yourself because you're not perfect is a perfect solution.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it?
That's exactly
it. Perfect solution.
It sounds like a paradox or something. But, that is it. So think about that and chew on it. But believe me, take the first step and keep going. Yeah. And you'll see. You'll see for yourself.
And once you start to forgive yourself, everything will change. And you can let us know things that you have had difficulty over, and that now, even watching the video, you now reflected on it and said, wow, I've started to forgive myself.
If there are any reflections that you have, or maybe areas you haven't forgiven yourself in, then let us know. Drop it in the comments. We always like to see it, to know that maybe we're helping in some way, or maybe you didn't think of something, but now you've had some time, you could put it out there. It may help someone else. So, we're all in this together and all getting through it. But we hope you enjoyed today's video. Mum,
enjoyed
Alicia,
it.
Have you got anything else to add to that?
No, just to say maybe we should do a little summary, like we did in the other video, to just, keep people before we go, like just to remind them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you had all the great sort of, like whether you want to call them affirmations or positive statements or things to say when that comes in. So like
Yeah, I would say number one, have some form of self-reflection.
Yeah.
Again, acceptance, acknowledgement.
Oh yeah.
Feel that you are worthy of forgiveness. And like Jay, like you said, it doesn't matter whether other people forgive you. Start by forgiving yourself.
Yeah.
And on an energy level, that will transpire.
Yeah.
And ripple and allow others to forgive you.
And just adding to what Alicia said, I mentioned it earlier, some people could start more neutral and say, well, I can't forgive myself because I did this and that. So as I said, even though I did whatever, ever, I give myself the permission to forgive myself and to love myself. Even saying stuff like that can help counteract whatever comes through.
Just take that first step.
Yeah, or like Alicia said, you can say, I forgive myself, and that's it. If you're at that place, you can just say that. And it's going to be hard at first. Sometimes you only want to say it because you've been doing the opposite the whole time.
And it will feel
wrong. But the fact that it feels wrong, meaning that there's a change happening.
Yeah.
It's almost like when you work out and you've really worked out and your muscles feel sore. They're sore because you know that it's going to grow or something's going to happen. You know that
there's change
coming. So it's that teething period.
Yeah.
That is what it is. So if it feels wrong, that's a good sign because it's going against whatever you're doing now, which you don't deserve that and isn't working for you. So I think in summary, hopefully that summarizes.
Yeah, I love that. Don't forget to put in the comments below things you may want us to talk about.
Yeah, there any other topics or life topics or anything you want inspiration on or motivation or advice in general or something else, just drop it in the comments and stick a thumbs up if you like the video, and don't forget to share and subscribe so you can be in tune for all the other videos we'll have. This is me, Jay.
And Alicia.
And Alicia as well, dropping out.
Mum and son.
You know what it is. See you to the next one, guys.
Thanks for watching.